The battle for Sievierodonetsk has been a very hard-fought battle, and the Ukrainians have had to make some very hard decisions about continuing to defend the town or to withdraw. At the moment, the Russians have the upper hand, but the Ukrainians continue to defend it, mainly to inflict casualties on the Russians, and probably not in the hope of retaining that city at this point in time.
How important is the city to the fate of the whole eastern Donbas region?
Well, the city is important because it is the last major Ukrainian-held city in the Luhansk province. So if they lose that town, primarily Luhansk will have been gained by the Russians. It's a political objective for the Russians as well as a military one, and they'll use that for their propaganda purposes.
Now, Mick, 2 Britons and a Moroccan man who were fighting for Ukraine have gone on trial in Donetsk after being captured by Russian forces. What do we know about these men?
Well, they're being put on trial by proxy forces in Donetsk, not by the Russians themselves. And the charges they've been brought up on are fairly generalised. There's not a specific event or a specific crime that they're being charged with. So this is more about the Russians and their proxies in a tit-for-tat battle to charge soldiers with crimes in public.
Now, Russia and Ukraine produce 1/3 of the world's wheat, supplies that have been disrupted by this prolonged war. The UN has issued a stern warning about the impact on food security globally.
Yes, Russia and Ukraine are massive exporters of wheat, but Russia's also a very large exporter of fertiliser, so it's a bit of a double whammy for the global food market. This also adds to droughts that are occurring in America and Brazil, 2 of the world's largest exporters of food.
Which countries are most affected by the disruption in supply?
Unfortunately, it's going to be the world's poorest countries, particularly in Africa, that are going to suffer through these restrictions to the availability of wheat, as well as the restrictions in availability of fertiliser coming out of Russia.
How are talks between Turkey, Russia and Ukraine going on safely getting Ukraine-produced food out through the Black Sea?
Well, the talks are going pretty much as well as all the other talks on safe passage that we've seen during this war. Not well at this point in time. The Ukrainians are fairly sceptical about Russian guarantees here, and I think they're right to be so. Just about every promise the Russians have made during and before this war has been broken.
Well, of course, Russia says grain shipments will resume within days from the Russian-held Ukrainian port of Berdyansk. You don't think this will likely eventuate? What are your thoughts on that?
It may occur, but it would be interesting to see whose grain and who's going to be paid for that grain. The Russians have no interest in the Ukrainians generating income from the export of grain or any other commodity that might help them in their war efforts.
Meanwhile, hundreds of bodies are being found in the debris of destroyed buildings in Mariupol. Are we getting much information out of here, Mick?
Well, we're seeing more and more on this recovery effort that's going on after the really vicious Russian assault on that city. It's very much like the disaster recovery efforts after a major natural catastrophe. There's a long period afterwards where recovery is involved in recovering injured or dead people. This is ongoing in Mariupol. It was a very large city, and there are thousands, if not tens of thousands, of casualties still to be recovered.
Mick Ryan, thanks so much for your time. Always appreciate it.
Thank you, Yvonne.